Now to avoid any collision of armed forces and perhaps the loss of life, I do this under protest and impelled by said force, yield my authority until such time as the government of the United States shall, upon facts being presented to it, undo the action of its representatives and reinstate me in the authority which I claim as the constitutional sovereign of the Hawaiian Islands. This was a quote said by Queen Liliuokalani, the first and last ever queen of the Hawaiian monarchy. Today I'm going to tell you about how the United States illegally took over the Hawaiian Islands. I went to Hawaii over the summer and I toured the Ailani Palace, which was a palace where the queen and the entire throne lived in. I learned about this topic and now I'm going to be telling you about what I learned. I will go over what happened during the Hawaiian takeover, why the Hawaiian takeover happened, and the aftermath of the takeover and the effects that it caused. According to Nasai Veterans Legacy in an article titled Hawaiian Monarchy Overthrown, Territory of Hawaii, copyrighted in 2021, Queen Liliuokalani started her term of being queen on January 29, 1891, after her brother, the former king, died. Just short of 3 years later, on January 17, 1893, her term quickly ended. A group of 13 white businessmen and lawyers, which were 5 Americans, 1 Scotsman, 1 German, and 6 residents of the monarchy, rebelled against Hawaii's queen, Queen Liliuokalani, and the throne was overtaken. President Harrison submitted a treaty to annex the islands to the United States Senate for ratification. The white businessmen took over the Ailani Palace and kept the queen on house arrest for treason. She refused to be overthrown as queen and wrote a letter to the U.S., which I stated in my introduction, about how she wanted her throne back. Unfortunately, Queen Liliuokalani never regained her power. Now that I have talked about what happened during the Hawaiian takeover, I will be talking about why the Hawaiian takeover happened. According to the Learning Network in an article titled January 17, 1893, Hawaiian Monarchy Overthrown by America-Backed Businessmen, from the New York Times, published January 17, 2012. Many white people from Europe and America migrated to Hawaii to start businesses. These businesses were created mainly for the sugar industry. These men didn't want the Hawaiian monarchy as their government. They wanted more of a British-style monarchy. The British-style monarchy gives very little power to the throne. So in 1887, these men forced King Kalakaua to sign a new constitution called the Bayonet Constitution. The Bayonet Constitution replaced the cabinet with all non-native white politicians, stripped power away from the throne, and stripped rights away from the native Hawaiians. When Liliuokalani became queen, she wanted to restore the original rights of the throne and her people. She had plans to propose a new constitution which angered the non-native businessmen. This is what caused her to be arrested for treason and why the throne was illegally overtaken. Now that I have talked about why the Hawaiian takeover happened, I will be talking about the aftermath and the effects right after. According to National Archives in an article titled The 1897 Petition Against the Annexation of Hawaii, copyrighted in 2021, Sanford Dole, one of the white businessmen, became the leader of Hawaii in 1894. After his leadership began, the new U.S. President Cleveland, hired an investigator to investigate the event that occurred on the islands. When they found out that Liliuokalani's throne had been overthrown illegally, Cleveland ordered that all American flags hanging on Hawaii's government buildings shall be lowered. Dole refused to give up his leadership. He proclaimed that Hawaii was a new republic, the Republic of Hawaii, and he was the first president of the Republic of Hawaii. 3 years after this, the native Hawaiians continuously rebelled against it. They hated it. Hawaii eventually became a U.S. territory and then the 50th state. 127 years after the takeover, Hawaii is now an insanely popular tourism destination. First, I talked about what happened during the Hawaiian takeover. Second, I talked about why the Hawaiian takeover happened. And third, I talked about the aftermath and effects of the Hawaiian takeover. Our government has done many good things for our country, but sometimes it is important for us to reflect and remember the selfish things that they've done too. I hope you now understand how America obtained the Hawaiian Islands.